Hello and welcome back to another episode of Your Pennsylvania Dutch Minute. Today's video falls into the series on famous Pennsylvania Dutch people. I was really ashamed of myself when I looked at the list of people that I've already covered that I hadn't done a video on the person that is our topic today, John Birmelin. For those of you that can read Pennsylvania Dutch, that's a name you will recognize. As far as authors in the Pennsylvania Dutch language goes, in my opinion, he is the best. Hands down. His poetry and prose is unmatched. So today I want to take a real quick look at a little bit of his story, who he was, and then I'm going to give you two examples of his writings in Pennsylvania Dutch, just to give you, for those of you that aren't familiar with John Birmelin, a little bit of an intro into who he was and why he does rank so high, in my opinion, in the authors of the Pennsylvania Dutch language. But let's take a look at his life first. John Birmelin was born in Long Swamp Township, Berks County, on the 31st of October, 1873. His mother was Pennsylvania Dutch. His father was actually a recent immigrant from Baden, Germany, here to the United States. As a child, he studied music at a young age, and by the age of 11 was already an organist in a local church where his father was also a member of the choir. In 1896, he moved to the city of Allentown in Lehigh County, and in 1901, he accepted a job as the organist and choir master of Allentown's Sacred Heart of Jesus Church, a position he held until his retirement only weeks before his death in 1950. Birmelin was also the first music teacher at Allentown Central Catholic High School, a position he held from 1926 to 1936. Although he wrote some poetry and verse as a young child, Birmelin did not begin writing again until the later years of his life. During the early 1930s, Birmelin's poetry was included as part of the Pennsylvanische Dijkschek, or what became known as the Pennsylvania Dutch Corner, column in the Allentown Morning Call. And writings from Birmelin were in 62 of the first 100 published columns of that series. His most commercially successful work was Mommy Guns, the dialect nursery rhymes of John Birmelin, a Pennsylvania German translation of the many Mother Goose nursery rhymes. Birmelin's poetry often dealt with aspects of Pennsylvania German life and history. Gewendel, one of his earliest works, is a poem about a beautiful Pennsylvania German girl on a farm. Regina Hartmann tells about the return of a Pennsylvania German girl taken prisoner during the French and Indian War. And Der Laufkauf pertains to the walking purchase, which had a whopping 60 verses, that epic lyric poem. And that's really what it was, an epic lyric poem. Rhyming, beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful. Famously, John Birmelin's Pennsylvania Dutch translation of the song My Country 'Tis of Thee, often known as America, was and still remains regularly sung at versammelings and other Pennsylvania Dutch events. I've done a video previously about that song, his translation of America. My Land ich sing von dir, ... In my mind, one of my favorite things to sing in Pennsylvania Dutch by far. I want to share two quotes with contemporaries of Birmelin's in regards to what they thought of his writing. I think these are powerful quotes. The first comes from Homer Rosenberger. He said, Birmelin had the power to write compelling poetry in the dialect that makes one sad or joyous, pensive or reminiscent, a special quality because he weighed carefully the sound of dialect words. His poetry dealt with Pennsylvania Dutch issues in life, sometimes humorously and other times in serious vein. And he wrote in the dialect with dignity, but with a warmth that went to the heart. And finally, another quote from another one of the giants of Pennsylvania Dutch history and culture and language, Preston A. Barba. Barba said, "Few have possessed so wide a range of feeling and of subject matter, and none have excelled him in the perfection of his verse. His poetry shows the careful craftsman and the trained musician. Sometimes Birmelin's delight in the sheer magic of the words bring him to heights of virtuosity hitherto unknown in our dialect." Wow, those are some hearty praises for Birmelin's work, and in my opinion, they are apt and true. If you can read Pennsylvania Dutch, I highly recommend that you check out any of his publications. I'll put a link to the Mami Ganz Buch, which is easy to get. He also did a translation of Max and Moritz, a very famous set of poetry in German that he put into Pennsylvania Dutch. I'll put a link to that. He called it Hans en Jarek, and that's available for purchase as well. A lot of his other stuff is in previous publications. I have one right here. Let me grab it. This book was done by the... Hold on. My pages are slipping. By the Pennsylvania German Folklore Society. There's a bunch of these volumes out there that carry a lot of his poetry. This one, Gezwitscher, which would be tweetings, how a bird tweets. And I always thought if Twitter was to be translated into Pennsylvania Dutch, we would call it Gezwitscher. But this is a great book. Just this entire volume dates from 1938, and it is entirely his poetry and translations of things. John Birmelin. I want to end today's video with 2 quick verses that he did, and you can see his rhyme, his pattern, how it sings. Guy was a musician. It makes sense, right? So here are 2 real short ones. Let's look at these. The first one. Ein Gedanke, a thought. Ich mein doch immer wär so schön, vor annen voller dich zu gehen, wo kleine Kinder net vergesse, schön zu beten vor a Messe. I always thought it was so nice to go to a full table where children don't forget to pray nicely before a meal. Of course, in English, it doesn't rhyme, but in Pennsylvania Dutch, it does, and it flows so well. One other real short one that Birmelin did. Zeit für aufzustehen. Time to get up. Do fliegt ein kleiner Vogel bei, blinzelt so zum Fenster rein. Sag so schottisch, schämt dich net? Mar jetzt noch so spät im Bett? Time to get up. A small bird flies by and peeks in the window and says, "Aren't you ashamed to be so late? To still be so late in bed." Sorry, that was a weird translation for me, but that's that. Again, in English, doesn't rhyme. In Pennsylvania Dutch, beautiful. Birmelin is one of the greats. End of story. In fact, in my opinion, he's the best. I don't think anybody... And there are people that might argue with me on that, but that's fine. They can argue all they want. Birmelin was the best. The best. So check out his stuff. Check out the links down below. If you have a favorite of Birmelin's poetry or poems that you like, let me know in the comment section. If you have an idea for a future video, you got to email me. Let me know, and I'll hopefully be able to answer your question or create a video in the future on that. Also, if you'd like to support what we're doing here on the channel, buy me a coffee. The link is down there below. And then finally, tell your friends about what we're doing here on the YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, subscribe. If you have friends that are at all interested in anything Pennsylvania Dutch, share the channel with them and tell them, hey, subscribe. Then you'll know every time Doug puts out a new video. That's what we're here for, to spread this knowledge, the joy that Pennsylvania Dutch brings, I know, to a lot of you out there. So keep the questions coming, of course. Keep hitting that like button. Subscribe, tell your friends, spread the Pennsylvania Dutch. Keep practicing your Pennsylvania Dutch, and until next time, Max gut.
Max